Hello and welcome to HR Service HIPAA Toolkit demonstration. When you go to HR Service homepage at www.hrserviceinc.com and log in, you will see the HIPAA Toolkit tab. Under that tab there are 3 pages. The HIPAA Toolkit training will house the training today, and the other 2 will help you review and assess to what level you need to be assessing your work environment and setting up policies and procedures to ensure that you are HIPAA compliant. You'll want to go to the HIPAA Determination Start Here page first. This page gives you kind of a brief overview of the general categories or entity categories under HIPAA. There are 3. There's the healthcare plans, so health plans, healthcare providers, those that conduct certain types of transactions in electronic form, and healthcare clearinghouses. Most employers, if you offer health insurance to your employees, this page is where you're going to start. And it will probably be where you'll find most of the information that you need to ensure HIPAA compliance. But it is through this review that you will determine whether or not you need to move on to the second page and do a deeper analysis of your workforce. So we'll talk a little bit about health plans and what they include. They would be things like government health plans, employer-sponsored group health plans or HMOs. These can be both fully insured or self-insured. FSAs, dental and vision plans. You as a covered entity, so a business, by virtue of offering these types of benefit entity, you have the flexibility and the freedom to design your privacy policies and procedures as you see fit, as long as they are reasonably designed to ensure compliance with the HIPAA regulations. If you hover down this page, roll down this page a little further, you'll see some compliance steps that you as an employer, as a covered entity, can start to take to determine the level to which you are held to HIPAA regulations. So you'll see here define some of those steps. Define a compliance officer. That's going to be someone who's going to go through the process of reviewing the things you do within the walls of the business that may touch on or have access to an individual's personal health information. You want to make sure and review relationships with brokers and insurance providers and outside third-party vendors to identify any area where PHI is transmitted or used. And then you want to assess their level of compliance with HIPAA. And we have tools to help you do that, and I'll show you a few of those down below. Some of the things you want to assess within the walls of the business are going to be around your practices with regards to your benefits that you offer your employees. So your enrollment procedures. You want to look at whether or not they're done electronically. Do you receive information from the broker or insurance provider? How is that done? What does that look like? Is it protected? Your billing and invoicing, premium collection and remittance processes. And of course your HR processes for employee file management, your benefit management, COBRA, for any type of personal health information risks that may be contained in those processes. Then you want to take steps to eliminate the handling of personal health information where necessary. Secure it. If you have to have access to it, make sure that you're securing it. But if you can minimize access to it, use a vendor who takes care of that for you so that things are done through a secure uploaded website, through the vendor's portal. Those are some ways that you can mitigate and minimize your access as an employer to that personal health information. You want to make sure and create a privacy policy and add that to your employee and or leader handbook. And if you have an internal website, you may want to post it on that for your employees' ease of being able to see that and review it at will. You want to provide the privacy notice to your participants. So anybody who's enrolled in your health insurance, you want to make sure they're getting your privacy practices, unless of course you're using a vendor, an outside third party, so you're a fully funded benefit, your provider may be giving that to your employees, but make sure that you're checking to see that it's done. You as the employer are ultimately responsible to ensure compliance with HIPAA, so you want to make sure that you are actually assessing their level or having them sign something to say that they are doing everything they need to be HIPAA compliant. Then you'll see we talk a little bit about the types of plans that are not considered HIPAA plans. So these are going to be things like short and long-term disability, life insurance, workers' compensation, death and dismemberment policies, OSHA. Things like this are not considered covered plans or policies under the HIPAA requirements. You want to make sure and document your determination of exclusion from HIPAA regulations, or if you actually assess that you are covered under HIPAA, this procedure will help you do that as well. We provide a tool called the Covered Entity HIPAA Guidance and Assessment Findings Sample. It's a Word version. You can open it on the website. It's going to allow you to go through some steps to kind of document that process and make that assessment. So you'll see here the very first thing is where you come back after you do the assessment and say, I am or I am not a covered entity based on the following. So you'll get some basic information about the person that's doing the assessment, all of their contact information. You're going to indicate the types of things the company offers. So from a benefits perspective, what types of things do you offer? Your employee count, so particulars with regards to the demographics of the business. Outside business enrollment information. So do you or do you not use and receive personal health information? Do you transmit stuff back and forth in the following procedures? So in open enrollment, are you faxing stuff, sending it through email? Is it electronically protected? Are you using a secure website through a vendor portal? Is that secure? So you assess all of these categories and you just document this information inside of this document. And then you want to store this in a binder or a folder or a file so that if you're ever audited, you can pull this document out and show them the steps you took to ensure that you are HIPAA compliant. You can put all your provider names here, so everybody you're using for benefits. You indicate every step that you've taken to ensure that you are HIPAA compliant. You indicate your HIPAA policies, where they're stored or located, your assessment date, and then again, who it was performed by. Here we give you a non-covered or limited entity HIPAA guidance, so you can walk through, read this. It'll give you a little more guidance about if you fall into that category of not being covered, that these are some of the things you still want to do as a best practice to make sure that you're protecting employees' information. We also provide for you here a non-covered entity handbook HIPAA policy. So these are all contained within that one document for your use. It's in Word version, so you can add your logo, customize it, and change it a little bit as needed to meet your specific business needs. All of the tools located down here are downloadable, Word version, with the exception of the privacy and security article, which is an article we wrote regarding HIPAA privacy and security requirements. So it's a 3-page article, just gives you kind of a recap of the various HIPAA categories. It's good to review it so you have a little understanding of HIPAA and its regulations. From here, if you've determined at this point that you're not a HIPAA covered entity, you don't handle protected health information, then you really wouldn't need to go any further. Use the tools and resources here that you need to document that. You can use the vendor security and confidentiality agreement to ensure compliance with vendors that you use that are not your healthcare providers. So this might be a shredding company. So if you use a shredding company to shred business documents, old employee files, they're now ready to be destroyed because they've met their retention period, you're purging files, and you're using an outside vendor to do that. You can use this to ensure that they are taking the right kinds of procedures in their destruction steps to secure that information. So you have that for vendors outside of the walls of the business to ensure that they're HIPAA compliant. You have them sign it, you keep that in your file, then you have proof that you've talked to them and asked that they are doing the right things to be HIPAA compliant. You've got your handbook covered policy in here. You've got a compliance officer job description. Again, it's a general job description, so everything on here may not be applicable to your business, but it gives you an idea, so you can modify it to fit your needs. You've got a security risk analysis checklist. This will help you do an assessment of the more technical aspects or physical aspects of the business. So entry, is there doors where someone can get in and get access to employee files? Are they secured? Are there automatic locks? Do you use key codes? Are employee files stored in a place where they are protected and locked, and access minimized to only those that have a need to know? So it helps you assess these types of things, physical and data, so virus software, security and encryption procedures. It'll help you walk through those types of things. Then over on the policy side, we have a notice of privacy practices for general industry. So if you're not in the healthcare industry, you could use this to inform your employees of your privacy practices. And then you've also got the notice of health information privacy practice for a health plan. So if you are self-funded, you probably need to do something more comprehensive such as this. Again, they are all downloadable, Word version, so that you can customize them to meet your needs. If you are in an area category of covered entity where you are more likely to be touching, handling, and using personal health information, you would then want to proceed over to the Healthcare Providers and Clearinghouse page. These are going to be organizations that are held to a much higher HIPAA compliance requirement or standards because they are using, touching, transmitting personal health information. So it's going to be things like medical offices, insurance brokers, insurance issuers. It could be hybrid entities. So those that are kind of a hybrid of the two types of situations could be, partially covered and non-covered, depending on your scenario. If you are using and touching and transmitting and housing protected health information, you want to make sure and go through this procedure as well. I won't spend a lot of time on this page, as most of the employers are not going to fall into this category, but you'll see here that it talks about making sure that you do the things we talked about on the first page, assigning a privacy officer, documenting your assessment and findings, so that first document we looked at, and then determining your assessment, your risk assessment and analysis, but it's to a greater extent. So here we talk about the physical aspects, the administrative aspects, the technical aspects, your policies and procedures, and a wealth of other things that you need to consider. So the high-tech requirements, these are going to go into a much greater extent. This is where you're going to want to get your IT individual involved and have them help you with these assessments and procedures. It'll talk about how to minimize the risk of misuse of patient information. So this is just a much more comprehensive page if you are using protected health information. At the bottom, I talk a little bit about HIPAA's 3 compliance areas, which include the privacy rule that restricts the covered entities and business associates' use and disclosure of an individual's protected health information. So it says what we can and cannot do with someone's protected health information. It's the patient's or the employee's rights. The security rule, which requires the covered physician's practices to implement administrative, technical, and physical safeguards. So this goes into your healthcare providers, your doctor's offices. They have a greater level of HIPAA requirements, and that security rule is what drives that. And then the third one is the breach notification rules. If there is a breach in protected health information, so you handle health information within the walls of your business, and that data is obtained by someone that should not have had access to it, essentially a breach, we have to go through certain procedures to make sure that we are reviewing, mitigating future breaches, notifying individuals of the breach, notifying HHS, the Health and Human Services, of the breach, depending on the size of it. But it talks about those procedures here. So again, below we have a wealth of documents available to help these organizations go through these procedures, and it will include breach samples, so breach letter notice, notification sample, guidance of a breach, your disclosure checklist, security analysis, guidance, and a checklist. You're going to also have a few more policies here. So there are a few more tools on this side, but it's because those of you who are going to fall into this category are going to have more steps to take. The key to remember with HIPAA assessment and review or analysis is that it's not a one and done. This is an ongoing process. So as things in the business change, you move physical locations, you use new software, you hire on new employees to start a new procedure within the walls of the business, change vendors for your healthcare providers. You need to go through the assessment again and make sure that you continually monitor that environment for any change, because you could go from being HIPAA compliant to from non-HIPAA compliant to, from a non-covered entity to a covered entity with those changes. So again, remember to continue to review that process on a regular basis. I hope you find this toolkit helpful, and thank you for your time.